Hello everyone, I'm Day Weather Meteorologist Don Day with your Public Lands Council weekly weather update for this March 26, 2022. It's being brought to you by Ag Risk Advisors and WSR Insurance Services Incorporated. Here we are already into the last week of March. Hard to believe we're that far into the new year. This far into March, you do expect the weather to bring a little bit of everything. And we kind of have seen that over the last week, and we're going to see that here over the next week. These are the highlights. In the western United States, we're going to have a very warm weekend that's going to last into Monday, where temperatures are going to be quite warm across the western United States. But there's some good news. We're going to see some really nice rain in California. Parts of the Great Basin and the Rockies are going to see some areas of rain and snow over the next week. We've got two systems coming. One that'll hit the west coast late Sunday into Monday, bringing California and the Great Basin states and parts of the desert southwest some precipitation. Then as we get into Tuesday and Wednesday, moving into the Central Plains and the Central Rockies. While the system is going to bring some snow, it's a fairly mild system in the sense that it doesn't have Canadian air attached to it. So snow levels will be fairly high, but the snow that will fall in the high country will have good water content to it, and that'll help out the snowpack. So while it will be pretty warm and dry to start the forecast period, the trend will be cooler and wet, and through the middle parts of April, the western United States will have an active weather pattern. Over the last week, there's been some good news for some areas. In particular, the hard red winter wheat areas right here picked up some badly needed rain across eastern Colorado into parts of Nebraska, Kansas, and Oklahoma, and even areas of Texas. Then patches of precipitation across the Intermountain West and the Pacific Northwest. Although these areas here got some moisture, need more for certain. And as we take a look at the anomaly, you can see that the above average precipitation went from eastern Colorado, parts of New Mexico, then into the Corn Belt areas there, then only a little bit area here in the Pacific Northwest. Now in the drought monitor situation, you can continue to see all the red and all the browns and the yellows across the Rockies into the Pacific Northwest and into California. However, I'm not all bad news because in the last week there's been some help. Look at this big patch of green here, some improvement in drought status over the plains of eastern Colorado and parts of the Front Range. That's good news. A little patch here in Wyoming, a little patch here in Montana, and in the north central areas of Oregon. So this is certainly a better trend, this area here as well, than the last couple of weeks. So we're hoping that April starts off with some wet weather, and we do think that'll happen. But this is going to be after a very warm weekend. We have a big area of high pressure that'll be developing across the Intermountain West here. Warm air from the desert states will be brought in ahead of this low right here off to the west coast. This system will be the weather maker for California Sunday into Monday and into areas points east after that. Notice the Arctic air is beginning to be more found up north, retreating a little bit to the north now. That's certainly good news. But it's going to be a warm, drier stretch of weather for a lot of the west this weekend and through Monday. But by the time we get into Tuesday and Wednesday, that low comes off the west coast here, brings the rain and snow to California, then into the Great Basin states and parts of the southwest. And then we're going to see some areas of rain and snow break out in this area here and may expand into southern areas of Colorado and northern New Mexico as well by the middle of next week, with this next storm coming in behind it for the second half of next week. By next weekend, we'll see the weather go more into the Midwest and Great Lakes, but little storm systems like this one coming into the Pacific Northwest, followed by this next one in behind it, should promise more precipitation chances for the West as we get into the second week of April. Over the next 7 days, this takes us through next Saturday. You can see the rains and the mountain snows there in California. Then you can see the mountains of Colorado and parts of Wyoming and eastern Utah. This could be a really good snow event for the high country, especially Colorado and parts even of Idaho and Montana and Wyoming as we get into the next 7 to 10 days. Unfortunately, the precipitation on the plains kind of spotty. Not much going on in eastern Montana as well, but the Intermountain West going to be able to pick up some precipitation, and some of that will be in the form of snow, and you can see the mountain areas doing the best. Now, temperature-wise, it is going to be colder than average by the middle to the end of next week across much of the west, despite the very warm temperatures here on the front end of the forecast. Our next update will be Saturday, April 2nd. Have a good week ahead, everyone.